throw it over to you, Chip. Tell us about a great example with Nutanix as you're sort of going across the superstructure there. Give us an example of where you all have been able to really help some of these departments or agencies or the private sector, quite frankly.
I talked about a couple earlier of examples of people using Nutanix to make traditional savings in large data centers in terms of footprint and going directly to the cloud in a couple of areas and trying that. I love what Monique said about having a process for that, because we've also seen some examples that are a little bit started out negative, if you will, people jumping into the cloud with major applications and running into issues around performance. And Beth, I think, described one of those where then there was, you had to recover after that and get a little bit closer to the data center. But those are the things that people are learning how to measure and look to up front. And those are some of the successes that we've seen, again, coming out of projects. We did a project in the civilian space in one of the financial independent agencies that started out sort of negative. They did all of their SharePoint in the cloud and the performance just wasn't there. The cost, that's the other thing. You can start to run into egress issues, right? And if you have an application where you're doing a ton of egress out of the cloud, it just wasn't what they expected. Months later, it wasn't what they expected. So they repatriated. We're starting to see this as a trend. And look, can we get the same cloud-like experience we were looking for on-prem? Can we do this better? And I had some examples earlier, but what they saw is they could provision those things. They could run it on-prem with a very small workforce and converge the way that new architectures you see in the data center from compute and storage and networking that connects that, the virtualization software. You can bring that into a single OS, have a single person manage it, and be able to provide that same service in a cloud-like manner. And then as you measure that, maybe pick out a cloud provider that's a little bit closer, work with some of our great partners in doing that. I love that comment that you have to kind of be working with everybody. We have to work with cloud providers and our major systems integrators and be able to provide that seamless experience when you've done the right measurements and say, this is good for the cloud, right? And give them the same OS in the cloud.
No doubt.